what up? No, it is another Tuesday. This is Knockouts and Three Counts, and man, do we got a lot to talk about. And we are hard to kill in here because we are fresh off of Lights Out Championship 14. We got TNA hard to kill to talk about in the debut of Nick Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler. You've got the debut of Ash by Elegance. There's a lot to talk about there. You've got UFC 297 coming this week, and past guests of the show, Jimmy Flick, along with Sean Strickland versus Plessis, PFL versus Bellator, and more. But before we get to that, I got to tell you about our fine sponsors at Potter's Tree Service. If you're in need of tree removal, tree trimming, chipping service, storm damage cleanup, walnut logging, or lot clearing, Potter's Tree Service is the way to go. But hey, don't take my word for it. I'm going to show you this commercial. Check out our sponsors. Their links are in the description, and enjoy the show. Lots to talk about tonight. Peace.
This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and Three Counts.
Cover! We got a new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and Three Counts is the podcast, baby! There's a real deal, baby!
Knockouts and Three Counts starts now.
Ooh, what up, no? It is another Tuesday. We are hard to kill. This is Knockouts and Three Counts. If you guys are checking in, make sure you hit that like button, comment button, all that stuff. We want to hear what you've got to say. There's a lot on the table. We've got Lights Out Championship 14, which just went down this past weekend, which you can check out on Spectation Sports, brought to you with the fine sounds of Knockouts and Three Counts. Also, you've got TNA Hard to Kill that went down. We got the debut of Nick Nemeth. We've got the debut of Ash by Elegance. We've got new champions and all kinds of things to talk about in there. We've also got UFC 297 and last week's guest, Jimmy the Brick Flick, getting down with us. He's going to be in the opening fight against Malcolm Gordon. We'll be talking about that and all that's going on with that, and Strickland and Plessis and all that kind of stuff. And then on top of all that, you've got the news of the PFL versus Bellator card being locked in. And a guest from a couple weeks ago, Clarissa Shields, will be stepping back into the PFL cage. So we got a lot to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. But J-Bone, Corey, how the hell are you doing? Corey's already got another thing that we got to talk about. Let's go Lions in this bitch. We're not done yet, but what were your guys' thoughts on the weekend? We were, like I said, we were doing Lights Out Championship 14. J-Bone, it was your debut on commentary. What were your thoughts on the fights? What up, though, Asa? Make sure you check out Potter's Tree Service.
They say I got a face for radio these days, this ugly mug. But no, I had a lot of fun, dude. That was, like I told you before we went on, a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be, a lot more comfortable, and happy to do it with you guys. Looking forward to doing it again, man. Let's keep it going. But the weekend's cold. I'm cold, man. I don't know about you guys. Shit.
You ain't wrong, dude. And we had some awesome fights, man. Crazy. You got to unmute yourself, Corey.
Corey, you got to unmute,
like
man.
The first time he's ever done this before.
No, I just always forget that I like to mute myself during the intro so that you don't hear me cough my brains out or anything like that with the last last little cart hit to get the show going. But that being said, I had brought it up to you, Kyle, on the drive back from the great fights that was Lights Out Championship on Saturday. I said that we have the potential for this to be a huge week for not only us as a show, but as a whole city of Detroit and the state, really, to have Michigan win the championship last week. Then we had the three of us lucky enough on the mic together, getting to call fights for the first time as a group, which I thought went really well. Like you had said, Kyle, anybody who may be curious, go check out the replay on Spectation Sports. Let us know what your thoughts are on it. But then to close that out with a playoff win from the Lions, like I said before we went live, I've devoted so many basically every Sunday since I was old enough to be able to, form memories. They've been spent watching the Lions lose or in some fashion try to pull it off, but it's never enough to actually even make the playoffs. Maybe we'll make it here and there, but we always lose in that first game anyway, so it never really mattered. This year, it feels different, and it felt different to get that victory.
We're changing the culture,
man,
baby.
so,
We're changing the culture around there. Now, if we could just get the Pistons on board with this winning thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys agree with the word that's going around, but a lot of people are saying that we've sacrificed the Pistons so that the other ones could win.
I was just going to say, as a long time, probably the Detroit team that I'm the biggest fan of is the Detroit Pistons. That being said, right now, my other teams need some victories, boys. I'm so glad to see the boys in blue get that national championship, and the other boys in Honolulu blue getting the playoff win. So, yeah, man, if it takes the Pistons being ass for a couple years, so be it.
So be it, dude.
So be it.
Sacrifice, to be said.
We nominate you as tribute, but then eventually we'll bring you back around, and it'll be like the 04 Pistons all over again. But with that said, I don't know. That was a time to be alive. But let's start with what else was going on Saturday. While we were doing the damn thing, J-Bone. We had TNA Hard to Kill, the first event under the TNA banner since they've rebranded and came back as TNA. Shout out to past guests of the show. We outside AJ Francis and DJ Who Kid out here doing the damn. Man, they put the boots to Joe Hendry. They did not believe in Joe Hendry.
Speaking of Hard to Kill, dude, I got the highlights up right now. Our buddy PCO, dude, still sacrificing his body, man. I just watched him do this moonsault thing into the apron. Golly, what a guy! You get that now. That dude's hard to kill. Don't even try because you ain't gonna do it.
Well, dude, shout out to our guy Megaran who was in the front row of that. He sent me clips of PCO doing the PCO assault right there in front of him. And man, that guy, he's scary a little bit, but man, is he entertaining to watch. And he gets the crowd going nuts. And that was one of the things I had on my list. I loved his entrance.
Yeah.
PCO's entrance was so badass. They brought him out on a table and had him like all strapped down to the gurney with the sheet over him, and he just sits up and like busts up out the straps, dude, like the Frankenstein. Yeah, dude, that was pretty badass. And they got the dub.
I like the venue they had there in Vegas. Was that
the Palms, man? Is MMA guys, bro?
Yeah, I like I don't know how to explain it. It's just like it's more of a secure, intimate setup. Like you're in it. You know what I mean? Like there's still a lot of noise going around, big production, but like you're in it, dude. And it looks great on TV. I tell you, they hit a home run with that first pay-per-view under the TNA banner again. Great job over there, man.
I agree completely, dude. There's not really, and they broke so many records for them. They said it was like the largest live gate they've had in like 8 to 10 years. They said it was the most pay-per-view buys they'd had in like 5 years, I think it was. Just all kinds of good stats for TNA coming out of Hard to Kill. And that's not even talking about some of the stuff we saw. Like I said, shout out to past guests of the show, AJ Francis and DJ Who Kid. making an impact in TNA and laying out Joe Hendry. I'm just telling you guys, if you didn't get to check out our chat with AJ Francis, formerly known as Top Dollar in WWE, you need to. A lot of good stuff in there, but I'm just saying for anybody on that Impact roster who hears this, better be ready, because this dude is ready to lay some people out. And let's not forget that he's a former NFL player too, dude, and that's a big dude. So
somebody like that, hitting the indie scene, you never know what he might bring, man.
I mean, all I'm saying is Joe Hendry is not a little dude, and he choke slammed the shit out of that guy onto that box of Cheez-Its, dog. So all I'm saying is watch out, because it really might be not nada when it comes to who's hotter than Top Dollar. But with that said,
right.
With that said, bro, you had the women's Ultimate X, J-Bone. What did you think?
So cool. I love that Ultimate X match. That is such a dangerous match, right? But we want so much out of it. Dude, I just going back, it brings back so many memories of like TNA back when, right? Kyle, like, you know how that all was, but like seeing them go out there and still innovate and still find new ways to use, all that stuff, dude. So cool, man. That I don't like to pick matches like this early in the show, but that one stuck out just because that's one of those, like I said, it's dangerous, innovative. You never know what's going to happen in those matches, dude. But I loved it.
Seeing how successful of a return this was for the brand, does it make you guys more excited than you, I guess, initially were when you heard the rebranding, or however you want to term that?
Yeah, I am. Me personally, yeah. I mean, I've been looking forward to like the rebranding of it, but you knew they come out swinging when they did it, right? You can't talk it up like that. You have the big rally and then, fall flat. You don't want to. I think they did it, man. They kept the OGs there. You still had Rhino there, and a bunch of new PCOs there. You know what I mean? Moose, look at Moose, dude. Moose is
speaking of that, the formation of the system too.
Yeah,
Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, Moose, and Alicia Edwards are all together as the system. And what a night for them, because Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards beat Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian, and then Moose wins the world title at the end of the night. So couldn't have really had much of a better night for somebody at Hard to Kill than the system had.
Alex Hammerstone was on the card, Speedball Mike Bailey. Like, you still got new faces, OGs in the sport, new faces in TNA, you know what I mean? But like a perfect balance of new and old going into 2024 for them, man. That's
Tommy Dreamer defending the Digital Media Championship. We got a new champion in Crazy Steve taking the belt off of Tommy Dreamer. I think it was a good mix of showing who some of the new stars are that they already had an impact that are going to be the stars of TNA, and in the other champions that were crowned, kind of letting people know where they're going to go in the future as well. Because another match that really stuck out for me, talking about that women's Ultimate X match, that definitely was one that stuck out to me. That was Giselle Shaw versus Zaya Brookside, who's new to TNA, which I like seeing her there for sure. Versus Jody Threat, who we've seen a lot here around the Michigan area, versus Tasha Steeles, versus Alicia Edwards, versus Danny Luna, who really showed how much of a powerhouse she is as well. Giselle Shaw getting the dub in that one. I wasn't necessarily expecting her to win that one, man, but I mean, it shows what they, that she's going to be a player in the knockouts division. Like you talked about, PCO versus Dirty Dango, it broke out and then it ended up turning into PCO, Rhino, and another past guest of the show, Jake Something versus Dirty Dango, Bravo, and Oleg Prudius, formerly Kozlov in WWE. But yeah, man, PCO hitting the moonsault, Rhino hitting the gore. Jake Something is an absolute freak, man. I just hope that he stays in the world title picture there. Like,
Josh Alexander and Alex Hammerstone, that was a 15-minute match. Great. What a match. And good for Hammerstone too, because we've been talking about him for a while, dude. He's an MLW, where he's gonna go next. It's good to see him in TNA because that dude's gonna make some noise.
He's been really good for a long time, man. And I feel like a lot of people didn't get to see him because not everybody got to see MLW. But I mean, for that guy to be that big and look like he does and move like he does and do some of the moves that he does, dude, that guy's a freak. And you put him in the ring with a guy like the walking weapon, Josh Alexander, dude. What a fucking match.
Yeah.
What a match, dude. Like that's two big ass dudes, good pace, hard hitting.
Yep.
Like
15 minutes. That's saying something, dude. That's saying something to their work.
And look at that too. The fact that he's facing a guy like Josh Alexander, was like one of the best Impact champs of all time, right off the rip, it shows you that they're putting him right into the world title picture, which I don't think there's any other place but that for him to really be at. Speaking of world titles, you know, the homie Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly lost their belts to Decay. That was a hell of a match, but we saw Rosemary and Havoc return, you know, for a while. For those that don't get to keep up with Impact, you know, they've been locked out in the Shadow Realm and all that good stuff. If you guys watched Impact Hard to Kill, let us know what you guys thought of the show. But I liked seeing Havoc and Rosemary return. Big fan of MK Ultra. I hope they both continue to do big stuff in the women's division. But what do you think of us getting new champs, J-Bone?
Hey, I knew something was going to happen, right? Like, new show, new 2024. We're going to rebrand it all. You want some new stuff, some new surprises, some new champs that comes with it, right? So I'm cool with it. I like Masha Slamovich. What do we call her, Corey? That one, Masha Slamovich?
Yeah, gotta slam a bitch. Every time I
I'm a
even
big
hear
fan of
it,
her,
man,
man.
that's all I hear.
Big fan of her, so we'll see how that goes going forward.
I mean, anybody that's ever watched Masha, man, you might fuck around and find out. So I mean, it's not too far off.
Trust me, we're not far off from the Slamovich name there, so she ain't no joke.
Not at all. Not at all. All right, what do we got up next? You got X Division Championship match. Chris Sabin versus Kushida versus El Hijo del Vikingo. Oh my god.
Yeah.
This fucking match was insane. This match was insane. The 450 off the 450 from the ring to the ramp was insane. The Canadian Destroyer on the ramp was insane. Geez, dude. Like
some of those moves, dude, you just worry about the guy's well-being. It's like shit. But hey, they're good entertainers, right?
That's what the X Division was founded on.
Exactly.
Damn. Shout out to the Motor City's own Chris Sabin. Good Lord, man. Like, he's the most winning X Division champion of all time, but man. And I mean, that's as good a way to bring it up. They also talked about how TNA is partnering up with AAA, which that'll bring crazy matchups. Anytime I can see Vikingo on my TV, whether it's Impact or TNA or whoever, I'm cool with it. And then, you know, since we're talking about people showing up places and all that stuff, you know, you had the TNA World Tag Team Championship match, ABC versus the Grizzled Young Veterans versus the Rascals versus Mike Bailey and Laredo Kid. Bro, it was so nice to see GYV back. We saw them when they were part of the Schism for a little while after they kind of took them out of that in WWE. What did you think about this match? What did you think about seeing GYV show up at Impact?
Dude, great match again. Like I said, we had banger matches throughout the whole card. Speedball Mike Bailey, though, we have been singing this guy's praises for a minute. He sticks out to me every match now. Ever since we brought him up, I keep an eye on the guy. You know what I mean? We see him seen him everywhere. So I like to keep that on the radar and to continue to do big things, right?
Yeah, dude.
But
Speedball
for
is always
as many people are in that match, though. If many people, it was chaos. for as many people that are in a match like that, dude, wild matches. I love those wild matches, but it's hard to keep up sometimes. But they did well. Like I said, banger of a match, dude. There's really not a lot to like disregard on the card. They definitely hit a home run with this first pay-per-view of 2024.
Can't argue that.
That's definitely important when you're trying to leave some type of imprint on the fans and stuff, to not really have any dull moments. So for you to say that the card didn't have any dull moments, that's pretty important thing, I'd say.
Well, there's so much talent, dude. Like you said, Chris Bay won the tag titles. Like, dude, that's huge. Like, this is all good things on this show, dude, top to bottom.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want. That's the last thing you want, is somebody to give somebody who wants a reason to hate it a reason, and to put out a good product on your first real swing at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Great job by the folks at TNA, man.
Speaking of championship changes, the juggernaut Jordan Grace called her shot and faced Trinity for the women's championship. A lot of people are speculating on whether, because we saw Trinity lose, that means she could be headed back to WWE. What are your thoughts on the run of Trinity? And what do you think about the new champion that we got here in Jordan Grace?
Well, one, you'll never see me arguing anything about Jordan Grace because, one, she's nuts. She's jacked. She'll kill me. But two, I mean, good for her, dude. She deserves the title, right? As far as Trinity, though, it was good to see her have her run there. I don't know what her contract looks like, and obviously January is the best time to have contract rumors and all that, because
or not
we got
Trinity.
the Royal Rumble.
I thought you meant Jordan.
No, Trinity. We don't know what's going to happen, but it was good to see her under the non-WWE banner, right? Like, we didn't know how she would factor in not in WWE, because that's the majority is what we saw. So as far as her running TNA, dude, I loved it. I hope, honestly, I think I'd rather see her stay than to go back to WWE. Obviously, everybody wants to be in WWE, right? That's the biggest landing spot for money, for exposure. But for what she did in TNA, I think we got a better look at her than we did in WWE, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping she sticks around there. But hey, maybe they can work together and get her in the Royal Rumble, regardless of where her contract lands. You know, did it? With
I would definitely say that it. I would definitely say that it re-energized Trinity for sure, because I mean, we did see her have a good run as women's champion when she was women's champ as well. But at the same time, I feel like this kind of reiterated the fact that, remember, when her and Sasha left, they felt like they were being underutilized. Mm-hmm. I think, if anything, this reiterates to whoever it is that wherever it is she ends up, if it's not TNA, that, look, I'm a main event player here.
Yeah. I mean, and we've seen the changing of the guard over the past year in WWE. I mean, come on, if CM Punk can come back, Trinity and Sasha absolutely can come back. You know what I mean?
If you've seen the videos, bro, there was like so many people in the crowd yelling, "I'll see you at the Rumble." Yeah. So,
and you gotta think it's on her mind. I mean, that's the biggest. I mean, what do they say? The Rumble's the biggest hot tag in the world. So, come on in, man. Even if you're not signed officially, I hope they get her there. Hopefully, somebody's out there watching or listening. Get her there, because when her music hits at the Royal Rumble, dude, you're gonna see that crowd go nuts.
It'll be interesting, man, because let's not forget that Bayley and Sasha were at, or I should say Mercedes Moné were at Hard to Kill as well. Obviously Bayley's not going to TNA, and I don't think that Mercedes necessarily is.
Wouldn't that be a cool little thing in the Royal Rumble? You get Trinity's music, and then she comes in, clears out the ring, and then here comes Mercedes Moné down to the Rumble. Face off. That would be huge. I'm just saying. They don't pay me to write the shit, but I would.
I mean, that would break the internet if they did that. That would.
You ain't lying.
I wouldn't necessarily be mad about that, but I think Jordan Grace is a good person for them to put that title back on. I think Trinity had a great run in TNA, and again, I just think that it re-shows, like, wherever it is she ends up, whether that's AEW, WWE, like, look, I'm a main event player, treat me as such. Or at least let's hope that that's how it ends up wherever we see her next. Bree says she thinks she's seeing her in a Royal Rumble. I wouldn't be shocked, especially with it being in
I would love that.
Florida. She's from Florida, so I wouldn't be shocked at that at all. Hell, speaking of that, we might see Andrade in the Royal Rumble as well. But that brings us to our main event. And you had Detroit's own, the other half of the Motor City Machine Guns, that we just heard Mason Madden say that him and Mansoor would love to take on in the Motor City Machine Guns. You had your Impact World Champion Alex Shelley versus Moose in your main event of Hard to Kill. Badass match. I'm so happy that Alex Shelley got his run with the TNA Championship because, as I said on the show, I've been watching the Motor City Machine Guns since the Fox Sports Detroit days. Mm-hmm. So it's really dope to see both of them with the world title and having the X Division title as long as they had. So, like I said, I think that's dope to see. I'm not mad at all at Moose being your new champion. That guy is money. There's no other way to put it. If you know what you're watching or are a real fan of wrestling, Moose is money, and I think he's a perfect champion. But that brings us to probably the biggest debut. We didn't when we were talking about Jordan Grace, I forgot to bring it up, so we'll do this first. This isn't who I was saying the biggest, but you also had Ash by Elegance, formerly known as Dana Brooke, show up there. Mm-hmm. J-Bone, what did you think about Ash by Elegance showing up?
That's cool. I'm good with that. She needed a place to be, right? It's always better with her.
What do you think about the character, though? Because I saw a lot of backlash on Twitter of people saying it was like a Tony Storm ripoff.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that. It's definitely a gray area. See what I did there? In there, but I'm cool with it, man. I mean, look, there's not a whole lot of originality in wrestling. It's been around since fucking beginning of time, right? So whatever we can do to get talent back on TV and get somebody to look at them, let's just try it. If it don't work, it don't work. But I'm with it, man.
And if you listen to her on Busted Open today, it wasn't like she was talking like in the old school tense like Tony Storm does. So let's just wait and see what happens for it. I agree. I'm glad to see her there. I just hope that she can really. I hope she really is able to make herself shine. Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But that brings me to, like I said, the biggest debut in TNA, and that be Nick Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, showing up in the ring after the world title match and making his intentions known with Moose. And then I know on Sunday he made his debut in a match at Snake Eyes as well. This is just dope to see because he's hit the ground running since he's able to be released. Showing up at New Japan with his brother Ryan Nemeth and then showing up here. J-Bone, what do you think about the debut of Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler? What up, though? Everybody checking out the stream. Make sure you hit that like button. And what do you think about the debut of Nick Nemeth?
Dude, I'm so happy he's back on TV, man. We've talked about Dolph. Well, can't call him that anymore. Nick Nemeth for a long time. That's one of those talents, man. He's so good, but you also just don't have like a valley for him to go down creatively. But hopefully here he gets to be open with the creative. I already like the whole Motley Crue type gig. He's already changed, into the TNA. He's in the stands. He's very aggressive with his character. It looks like we're not going to see the same Dolph Ziggler type smooth wrestling type. I think you're going to see aggressive Dolph.
I feel like we were kind of.
How long is it going to take me to not call him Dolph? I guess that's.
Well, my thing is though, I think we were seeing a lot more of that towards the end of Ziggler's run. If you really think about it, at least as far as the look and like you said, the Motley Crue stuff.
Yeah.
He'd been incorporating that stuff for a while because I've heard him say that's the kind of music he likes and stuff like that. And I thought it was a great fit for him. As anyone that knows anything about his career knows, dude, that guy can wrestle with a broom and make it look good. And, there's so, like we've talked about for so long, TNA has one of the most underrated rosters in wrestling. There's no way to put it. And adding someone like Dolph Ziggler, who has all the knowledge, all the experience, has done everything that you can do in wrestling, to come down there and now still have gas in the tank and have stuff that he wants to prove. I think this is a perfect place for Nick Nemeth to be, because he can not only help the talent of TNA, but I think when you've got young guys that are hungry like that, and to be in there with somebody like that, I think it's like a rising tide raises all ships. I think Nick Nemeth being in TNA is going to be money, and I hope to get to a show and check out that soon. Hopefully we can bring him on at some point, because man, I am very much so looking forward to see what we see
always
from him.
say. We've always been talking about how good he was. Remember when all those guys got released? He was the one that was on the top of the list. Like, oh, I'm really curious to see creatively what happens with him. And now we're finally starting to get.
Well,
to that
and
point.
look at hit the ground running. Like the fact that he's working with Impact, or geez, it's going to take me a minute to get used to saying TNA.
All these name changes. Kyle.
TNA with him working with TNA, and he's getting to do New Japan.
Yeah.
So I really like that, because he could be doing one thing here and then be doing something completely different in Japan. And I like the fact that they're doing the stuff with him and his brother. His brother really spoke about how he was looking forward to getting to do stuff with his brother, because they hadn't really wrestled together like that, because he didn't start wrestling until after he had gotten out of college.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think I'm just interested to see what happens. I really liked what we saw from AJ Francis. Like I said, I really think he could be, money, pun intended, with that. He can make $1 or $2 for TNA there. Like I said, all in all,
you're doing here. I like what you're doing here.
I try from time to time, but with that said, I really think that there's a lot of positives to be had out of what we saw from TNA this past weekend.
I just hope they open the door creatively for all those guys, because they always talk about it. When in WWE it comes down to the last guy, usually Vince or Hunter, is going to tell you yes or no. Here, let these guys open up, especially the vets, because they've been around for a long time. They got a lot of stuff in there that they need to creatively get out. So let them do it, man. I think Nick Nemeth is going to be one of those guys that breaks out.
Yeah. Can't argue that. I'm really excited to see what we see from him. I'm looking forward to seeing the matches that came out from Snake Eyes that are going to be on the future TNA tapings and stuff going forward. Yeah. So, like I said, definitely looking forward to checking out some of that new TNA action in 2024. But with that said, that really kind of puts a bow on TNA. But we also had, before we switch over to the MMA side of things, we also had Monday Night Raw last night. It looked like Seth Rollins got hurt. Now, we don't know. There's no confirmation on anything. We haven't seen Raw next week to see if he'll be out. But it looked like Seth may have gotten hurt. Now, if he did, boy, does that change things, because we've been talking for a while about how we thought it'd be Seth versus CM Punk and Cody versus Roman. Well, if Seth goes down, now that changes a lot of things. J-Bone, what do you think on that one? Do you think-
I hope that's not the case, dude. Let's just really hope it. Either I don't think it's an angle, because it was all over the place like it was, but I really hope that's not the case. But if let's just say that is the case, right? Let's say it's to the point where he can't wrestle, he's got to drop the title. What do they do? How do they pivot? Who's Kyle? I guess this one's for you. Who would be next up to per se take his spot? They got to give it to somebody. You can't go into the Royal Rumble WrestleMania season with no champion.
I disagree.
It's got to be given to somebody at this point.
I think what you do is you have a pay-per-view coming up next month in Perth. You put your top 6 guys in an elimination chamber, and the winner comes out with the belt. That way, that guy's the champion. I just beat 6 dudes in an elimination chamber. What are you going to say about me being a paper champion when I had to win inside elimination chamber?
I got a good fantasy booking. This might be funny. It could get some heat on some guys. What if he does say, hey, I got to give up the belt? And then Priest music hits and he says, give it up. Here's my cash in. There's no champion, right? By means, what happens? If the title's vacant and you cash in Money in the Bank, then what? That creates some instant heat. That's instant heat on Damian Priest, dude.
But how would that work, though? Because could that really work, though? Because he technically wouldn't be cashing it in because there's not a champion to cash it in on.
That's a rule that they haven't really figured out, right? But hey, if I'm the GM, I say, okay, congratulations, you're the new champ, but your first title defense is going to be at Elimination Chamber. You know, it's a way to get it off of him and onto somebody else, I guess is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I kind of think that
just to
Priest
keep the title
gonna,
in play. You know what I mean?
All I'm going to say is keep your eyes open for what Priest does after the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. I wouldn't be shocked if when we get to like Backlash or something like that, if we see a cash in around that time.
I'm so tired of his cash ins failing. Every time the man goes to cash in, damn it, somebody interrupts him, or you got Drew interrupting, Randy Orton, and the whole Punk thing. This guy's got like the worst Money in the Bank luck in the world. Actually, no, Kennedy had pretty bad luck, but whatever.
Yeah, and then was it Baron Corbin cashed in and didn't win either? I think Baron Corbin probably had the worst luck with the Money in the Bank cash in because he failed to cash in. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah,
he failed, and I think Kennedy lost it. Didn't Kennedy?
Kennedy lost it.
Yeah. Oof. We don't have to go.
It's crazy because that was here in Detroit. Ring the bell.
Yeah.
I was here. Stay tuned. There might be a T-shirt coming for that soon. But the other thing that I was going to talk about out of Raw was Becky Lynch says that she's declaring herself for the Rumble, and I liked the back and forth we saw out of Becky and Rhea. What do you think about what we saw out of that? I think Becky versus Rhea would be money, and if Rhea hears this, I feel like if Rhea kind of like save this one into the chamber, like, I already done beat Charlotte. Now I just got to beat you, and I've done taken out the so-called horsewomen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. I mean, at this point, dude, who else is there, right? I mean, for potential WrestleMania build-up to the big pay-per-view through Perth, Becky's the one that's kind of got to carry it. Charlotte's on the shelf. Bailey's still there.
Well, the way they're painting it, Becky's got to get there by winning the Royal Rumble. So unless it comes through the chamber.
I think, honestly, for an early pick, I don't think it's a bad idea to take Becky Lynch in that.
I would say that
right now I've been trying to pick Bailey for years, damn it, and I feel like she's going to get it one of these years. She can never get it, right? I think I picked her the past 2 or 3 years to win it, and she got hurt.
I'd like to think that Bailey's going to get her one, but right now I feel like she's got to be watching within her own clique, dude. I feel like the Judgment Day is going to. I think it's only a matter of time before the Judgment Day turns on her. I feel like, but Becky versus Rhea, I'm here for it, bro.
Becky versus Rhea is a WrestleMania caliber match, and I think that's what they're really trying to get to when it comes to the women's division. So I'm with that. I'd love to see Becky win it. Put my money on Becky. Give me that belt, Corey.
Hey, we'll see.
Yeah, you guys are just lucky that I'm going to be at the show. Ring the bell because I would come there and take my belt.
Is that why?
Facts. Remember, the first time I ever showed up at your house, I walked out with a belt. Don't act like I can't do it again.
Which one? Oh, you had the one that Corey had, right? And then Corey,
son of a bitch, took my belt.
Took it right off and rode home in his car with his belt. That's what happened.
Oh, that's some. Let's add some salt to the wound. Oh boy,
it's bullshit.
You could have at least bought him dinner. Damn it,
Corey don't never buy me dinner.
You could have bought him dinner that night, Corey.
But
got some gold, well, plastic.
Speaking of gold and speaking of those things, dude, we also had the UFC that went down that weekend. It was it wasn't the most eventful of cards. I mean, Ankalaev got a big knockout over Johnny Walker. I feel like this is kind of going to be the end of Johnny Walker as far as the main event picture. Realistically, like it, I don't really see Johnny Walker ever really being able to get over that hump to being able to get to that belt at 205. I feel like what's going to happen next at this point, it's either got to be Ankalaev versus Jamal Hill, or Ankalaev gets the winner of Jamal Hill and Poatan is pretty much where it seems like all roads head in the UFC. We also had Jim Miller looking pretty crispy again and getting him a dub, and then calling out Paul Felder as well. And then yeah, man, we had some good fights on there, man, but it's
was he lobbying for UFC 300? Is that what I read? Jim Miller?
Yeah, he wants to fight because then he would have fought on 100,
No.
200, and 300.
Yeah, not only is he lobbying, he actually literally already has his fight announced. I don't know if you guys seen that.
Oh, they announced it?
Yeah, he's taking on
Good.
Bobby Green at 300. So
Oh,
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That
I
is
don't know if you guys
nice. I
seen
like
that one or
that.
not,
Good
but-
for him. So now that makes
Yeah.
him on 100, 200, 300, like you said?
yeah.
Good. I'm glad they did that.
What
To
do you
your
guys
point-
think about Bobby Green versus Jim Miller, though?
Well, real quick before I jump on that, to your point with the Johnny Walker thing, I think we've seen the way that light heavyweight plays out. We've seen one of my personal favorites, and I hate to use him as an example in this, but Anthony Smith. He's lost a couple, and then he always rebounds back, works his way back up, and then next thing you know, he's main eventing against another guy, whether or not it's short.
He might
notice or
still main
something
event
like
because
that.
Johnny Walker is still fun to watch, but I'm just saying I don't really see Johnny Walker ever really getting to that point where he's able to, you
be
know,
an actual title contender.
Yeah, I
and
just
in the top,
because every time he's
upper
gotten
echelon.
up to like that next level guy, that's when he seems to get caught.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I'm not disputing that fact. I'm just saying with the way that the UFC loves to put these higher weight class guys in the main events and stuff like that, I wouldn't be surprised if he still stays in that picture. I just am more so curious what matchup they end up playing him out with. I feel like there's still a lot of guys because he, to your point, Kyle, he gets thrusted towards the top and then usually loses, whether it's the Jamal Hills of the world or the Ankalaevs of the world and stuff like that. He usually ends up making it to that point, but then loses. We'll see what matchups present themselves after this, because I feel like
I wouldn't be shocked if he fought Anthony Smith or something next.
Well, he got that victory over Anthony Smith, and I feel like that's what put him in this spot was that big victory. But
Yeah,
I
never
feel
mind.
like
That's
you
right. I
could
forgot
still
about
see
that.
him against like the Jan Blachowicz and the,
That's
like,
kind of the
there's
other name that was
plenty
thrown
of
around to me.
other matchups I feel like in 205 that are still entertaining for him. As for Ankalaev, I agree with what you were saying, Kyle. I feel like the title's in front of him, whether it's having to wait for the rightful guy who didn't lose his belt, just lost it via injury in Jamal Hill, or whether Jamal Hill's not quite ready yet and we see Ankalaev versus Poatan. Either one I don't really have an issue with. I feel like let Jamal Hill take his time and heal up and come into it proper instead of rushing him into his title opportunity, I guess we can say. So either way, I like that one. But to your point, the Bobby Green and Jim Miller fight, it's a perfect fun UFC 300 type of
Yeah.
matchup. If you're gonna get Jim Miller on there, I know he was calling out like Matt Brown and stuff like that. I felt like that would have been another fun one and stuff. But I feel
Paul Felder while he was at the desk.
yeah, he called him out as well. But I feel like, and I've seen it been thrown around in a couple of the other media rooms, Paul Felder, literally when he addressed it on the mic later that night, he said, I'm not in fight mode. I would have to get myself into fight mode. So I like the fact that with this,
He's got till April.
Well, that's what I was going to say. With this card only being 3 months away, I don't want, if you're going to be Paul Felder and you're going to make a big return and stuff like that, 300 is a great venue for it, but you shouldn't be 2-3 months out now saying like, all right, let's get the wheels running. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think he's not already training though. If he already has announced that he's coming back.
Either way, I really like the matchup. I think Bobby Green, Jim Miller, both vets of the game. I feel like for Jim Miller, this is actually a really big opportunity because Bobby Green's still ranked at 155. So get a victory against a guy like this with the wins he's been able to rattle off. Do we eventually see a top 10 Jim Miller? That would be pretty cool here at the end of his career. But I don't know, man. I'm excited. I feel like Jim Miller, he's one of those guys that just gets the fans excited. And yet again, same thing with Bobby Green. So sign me up.
I'm here for it.
Perfect 300 matchup.
You got an early prediction on it? Early prediction.
Depends, man.
It don't got to be your final one.
It depends because I feel like we've seen Bobby Green do really good against guys like Jim Miller. He's went in there and pieced him up, landed his shots, been able to stuff the takedowns and come out victorious. So I want to lean that direction, but he's also suffered a couple not so great defeats that in the last couple fights that kind of make me wonder, are we going to see the same version like that Jalen Turner fight really, as soon as I say the Bobby Green Jalen Turner fight, everybody knows what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
He got, that ending wasn't great. And for this to be the return fight from that, I'm curious to see what version of Bobby Green we see. I want to lean that direction, but I feel like Jim Miller is one of them guys, man. He just goes out there, performs well. He lives up to expectations almost every single time. And it seems like the almost is when he goes and takes on that upper echelon of guys. So we'll see if Bobby Green's still there. Like I said, my initial thoughts are Bobby Green, but we'll see if how much that fight took out of him, man.
He was knocked out twice, bro, on the same fight.
2, maybe even 3 times.
Maybe even 3. That's not a good look.
Yeah. What about you, Kyle?
Honestly, dude. So this could totally change. I want to see how Bobby looks going into the fight first. Because based on how Bobby looks going into the fight, that could change the way I feel once we get closer to the fight. As of right now, I say it all the time. I'm a big fan of momentum. And I feel like Jim Miller is on a roll. Jim Miller looks slick against Gabriel Benitez. And I feel like against a Bobby Green, like you said, that's coming off one of the gnarliest knockouts I've ever seen, Jim Miller versus Bobby Green is going to be a lot tougher of a fight than people think. And right now, that momentum for Jim Miller might be the thing just to overtake it.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I was hearing somebody break it down earlier. He's won like 6 of his last 7, all of which by finish. So it's like he's going.
I mean, now to be fair, it's not like he's been fighting the upper echelon of guys.
Very,
but I mean,
very true. And that's one thing I was actually going to point out too is, Mowgli Benitez is not the same level of fighter, I feel like, as a Bobby Green is.
Exactly.
So,
that's why I feel like this is going to be a lot tougher fight than it is. But I still think, like I said, with the momentum, this would be the good time for him to catch Bobby Green, being that Bobby Green's coming off that nasty knockout. So, like I said,
fun fight
matters. A far out pick, that's what I'm going to say. But again, I want to see how Bobby Green looks once we get closer to UFC 300. All right. UFC 297. For those of you guys who are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We got to talk with our guy, Jimmy Flick, who will be the first fight on this one on the early prelims. Going to be fighting Malcolm Gordon. I think it's a very winnable fight for Jimmy, but like we talked about in the interview, I think that it's a fight that both guys are in the same boat. Both guys need a win.
Yeah. And
you know what? I'm going to go with our guy, Jimmy Flick. Hopefully he can pull out some kind of submission or something like that against Canada's own Malcolm Gordon. But what do you guys think, Malcolm Gordon versus Jimmy Flick?
I mean, being our boy that is Jimmy Flick, I mean, to your point, he does need to definitely get a victory, man. I was not to bash somebody that we've had on the show or anything like that, because I am a big fan of his, and I feel like this is a very winnable fight for him. My only concern is I feel like I was expecting a little bit more in his return since the whole layoff in his career and stuff like that. I feel like we haven't seen that same version of Jimmy Flick that we've seen in past fights. I know we only got one example in the UFC, but if you go back and watch his LFA fights and stuff like that, he was really, really brought that killer instinct and stuff like that. And I feel like we just haven't seen that version of him in the last couple, and that's what's leading to this unfortunate loss streak for our boy. That being said, with Malcolm Gordon, in the same type of instance, I feel like he's been fed a couple of the young up-and-comers in the 125 division. So he's been led to a losing streak of his own. And with both of them matching up, Jimmy had brought it up on the show, and we had kind of brought it up to him even, that their styles are very similar. They both kind of implement the ground game and stuff and try to implement their pressure from the top position and stuff like that. But I feel like the big difference is Jimmy Flick's jiu-jitsu is just significantly better. And if he's able to implement it from any of those positions or even just get solid reversals so that he's the one that ends up on top and is able to dictate how the fight's playing out and stuff like that, I absolutely think this is a very winnable fight, and that's the direction I'm going, actually, is Jimmy Flick on this one. But there's a reason why they put him against the Canadian guy in Canada, and I feel like let's go Jimmy Flick. But
Opening
again,
the show,
there's a reason.
Too.
There's
the
a
arena's
reason.
going to be red hot, ready to go on the first fight of the night against the hometown guy. It's a bad spot if you ask me, but we got to go with Jimmy Flick on this one, man. Come on. That's our buddy.
Yeah.
Let's go get it.
All right. Now, let's get to the rest of this card because, I mean, if I'm being honest, bro, like for this being a pay-per-view card, this card is not
Did you
really,
since you're bringing that aspect up, because I agree it's not the worst in the world. We've seen actually a lot
for a
worse over the
pay-per-view,
last
bro.
year. We've seen worse over the last year, I feel like. But that being said, it's definitely not top tier.
There's definitely
pay-per-view.
fights that I'm looking forward to. Like I think Chris Curtis and Marc-Andre Barriault is going to be a good fight. Arnold Allen and Evil will be a good fight.
Yep.
Brad Katona, I generally like to watch him fight, so that'll be interesting. Charles Jourdain will be interesting over there, being another Canadian guy. And I think Jillian Robertson versus Polyana Viana will be a good fight. I mean, not to say that there's not good fights on the card. I'm just saying
it's just not $80. And to your point, actually, they even gave out a reduced price on this one. I don't know if you've seen that during the
a whole $10, so it's still going to cost me $75.
$70 instead of $80.
No, it's going to cost you like $75 when they add the tax.
After the tax, yeah. But that being said, at least they're. I don't know if that was because of the strength of this card or if it was more so to do with the new year and stuff like that. Maybe they tried to offer fans a discount type of deal. But either way, I agree with what you're saying, Kyle. But it was very surprising to see ESPN offer any type of discount on these UFC cards because it seems like they just love raising the price on these things.
Oh, they do. It's not like they do.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this card, all right? I mentioned some of the fights that I was looking forward to. We're not going to go through like all the prelim fights, but those are some of the ones that I think are going to be ones that'll stick out. I think, like I said, the Katona fight, the Charles Jourdain fight, Jillian Robertson's fight, and obviously we're looking at our guy Jimmy Flick. But as we get to this main card, Arnold Allen versus Movsar Evloev, I think this is a fight where they're trying to test to see where Evloev's at. Because Arnold Allen's number 4, he's ranked number 9 here. I think Arnold Allen had a big step-up fight in his last fight. I think they're trying to see if he's going to be able to keep his spot there at number 4. Honestly, I expect Arnold Allen to bounce back. I think Arnold Allen will win. I think he's going to prove that he's going to have grown from that last loss, I feel like. And I think he'll be able to get the job done with Evloev. But like I always talk about with momentum, this could be a great time for a guy like Evil to be able to jump up the rankings. I mean, he would jump up almost a whole 5 spots depending on how far they move him up.
Yeah.
But like I said, I like Arnold Allen in this fight.
I agree with the Arnold Allen pick. I feel Evloev, he's an interesting character, right? Because I feel like he looks super impressive in some of his fights, and then like the Diego Lopez came in on short notice, made his debut against him, and arguably beat him to take Evloev's in his loss column. So I don't know, man. He's one of those guys where he'll show up, and then sometimes it just doesn't seem like he's the same guy on the night type of deal. That being said, he's been an absolute killer against a lot of guys, but not being able to find finishes. Arnold Allen, I feel like the complete opposite. He's dangerous throughout the whole fight, especially in a 3-round environment. I'm really he brings some real notable dangers to the fight. I feel like if he's able to stuff the takedowns, his striking will be better, and his power will be more substantial in there. So I'm gonna go Arnold Allen as well. But to your point, Evloev, he's one of those guys where he's just tricky to deal with. He's been shown to he's maintained his undefeated record in the UFC while fighting some really solid guys. So it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if he's able to grind him out, land some good shots, and keep his distance and stuff like that. Doesn't really engage with Arnold Allen in that type of swing and bang fight like that. But I think Arnold Allen's just going to be too much for him in there. He worked his way up to that Max Holloway fight for a reason. He might not have been victorious in it, but I feel like with the time off following that fight too, he gave himself enough time to probably get his confidence back up in the gym and stuff like that. So I'm going Arnold Allen.
What do you got, J-Bone?
I'm with you, man. This fight, I mean, you gotta think how do you say this guy's name properly?
Evil.
Last 7 by decision, dude. I mean, that's saying something. He's grinding these guys out, but look at Arnold Allen. Out of his last 11 fights, he's only got the loss to Max Holloway, and his past 2 wins are finishes. So that's a wave of momentum you can't deny, I think, and I think I'm gonna take Arnold Allen on this one too.
All right. Next fight. I really like this fight. As I've said multiple times on the show, I'm a big fan of Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barriault in this fight. I like Chris Curtis. I'm going Chris Curtis. I like momentum, and I like I said, I just like the way that guy fights, dude. He gets in there.
Yeah.
He's a fun guy to watch. He's not reckless, but especially knowing his story and seeing him rap and react with so many of the guys over there at Extreme Couture. I definitely got to go Chris Curtis on this one.
I mean, I agree. He lives up to his name 100%, right? The action man. He really is the action man. I love his fighting style. I love what he brings to it. My only concern is Marc-Andre Barriault, the battery, as they always refer to him on the commentary team, and he also lives up to his name. He's really hard to get out of there. He usually gets kind of beat up in the first round a little bit, but then always seems to just out cardio these guys later on. And we've seen Chris Curtis kind of stumble in some of these fights against guys that I feel like are the type of guys that he should beat, right? Like we've seen the Jack Hermanson fight that was a big struggle for him.
Mm-hmm.
The Kelvin Gastelum fight in his last one didn't go his way either. I feel like it's just, I don't know, man. I really like the action man. He's one of my, to your point, Kyle, I love his whole insertion in the UFC middleweight or welterweight division. And I don't know, man. I feel like this is one of those fights that's really 50-50 to me. I root for Curtis in this one, but I don't know which way to actually put. If I'm laying money down, this is probably one I'm skipping.
I am.
Who are you laying
I'm taking
your money
Team
down
Canada
with?
here, bro. I'm taking Team Canada on this one. I don't want to go against Chris Curtis, but out of his last 4, he's lost 3, considering one's a no contest. But Marc-Andre Barrios, winner of his past 2. So we're riding that little wave of momentum too. So I think this one's gonna get him where he needs to be. And
I could be going with my heart on the Chris Curtis pick because
I
always
it's really
talk
hard to go against him because my heart pick is that. You know what I mean? But I like to ride that wave of momentum, like you said, Kyle. So I'm going Team Canada on this one.
Yeah, man, it's tough. Like I said, I'm going Chris Curtis, but again, I always talk about momentum. I think momentum is definitely a thing in this fight. We'll see how it plays out. This next fight really intrigues me because I think this is kind of the same situation and almost the same ranking that we got in our previous fight, but at welterweight. And you've got Mike Malott versus Neil Magny. I'm going Mike Malott all day on this fight. I've been talking highly about Mike Malott for a while. He can both knock you out and submit you at the same time as he's the jiu-jitsu coach over there at Team Alpha Male. Especially in Canada, dude. I'm going Mike Malott all day.
Team
probably
Canada.
by some kind of finish over Neil Magny, as much as it hurts me to say that.
Yeah,
he always gets those huge crowd pops too. You gotta love that for these Canadian boys supporting their own, and he's gotten a lot of the comments now of he's the next Canadian star, or he's the next GSP for Canada and stuff like that. And this is one of those fights where if you're gonna be that guy, you got to beat Neil Magny. You know what I mean? That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, like Neil Magny is just some like stepping stone or something like that, because he's not. I'm a big fan of Neil Magny, but I feel like especially in his last couple fights, we haven't seen that same version of Neil Magny, who's able to let his pressure kind of take over, get people up against the fence, land good shots, get on top of them, land some more good shots, maybe, win exchanges. I feel like we haven't been seeing that version of Neil Magny as of late. And maybe that's just me as a fan, but I feel like he's starting to kind of lose that edge a little bit that made him who he was and how good he was at, certain moments of his career. He's always been one of those guys where he kind of goes on slides, whether it's wins or losses. But I feel like right now, fighting a guy like Mike Malott in his hometown, this is not the kind of fight you want if you're Neil Magny. And unfortunately, it's the kind of fight he has in front of him. I'm sure as a competitor, he loves this matchup because it's the chance to silence the home crowd. It's the chance to get the win over one of the next up and coming guys in the division. But we've seen what happened when he had that same opportunity against Ian Gary. That fight did not go his way, if I'm not mistaken. They gave it 10-8s the whole way down. So I don't know, man. I feel like, to your point, Kyle, Mike Malott is a dangerous finisher. So I would imagine he's going to be able to find a finish throughout this fight, but I lean his direction as well.
Yeah, I'm the same, dude. I think he's going to win it by submission. One thing I want to point out here. So this Mike Malott Neil Magny fight, odds-wise, is the steepest odds on the whole card. Top to bottom.
Is it really?
As of right now, they have Mike Malott at minus 360. That is the biggest favorite on the entire card. So even though this may not be a pay-per-view caliber fight for us as fans, looking at the odds as of now, it's one of the more close, odd type of card I've seen in a long time. I mean, like I said, that steepest one is right now, as of right now, minus 355. It just moved. So. Yeah. These could be, if the matchmakers know what they're doing, right? They could be some excited fights here, man. So if you're a betting man, go put you some money down. You might win some money this Saturday, man. It could be exciting.
It's always those ones where we, as fans, kind of are skeptical going into it, that always seem to outperform their expectations. And sometimes those cards where we think it's the world of it, they don't always perform to expectations. But it seems like they always step up. So
I'm looking at it right now, and like I said, that other than this one right now, they have the prelim. How do you say Yasmin? How do you say her last name?
Jasdavicius.
Yeah, she's right now same as Mike Malott at 350. So
who's she taking on? She's another big Canadian prospect.
Priscilla Hochera.
Cashwea. That's the chick that fought. She's the one that fought Miranda Maverick.
Yeah.
And she's a plus 295. So, I mean, there could be some money. You never know, man. The odds are not steep on these ones, so go out there and win you some cash, dude.
So who we got? I got Mike Malott.
Yeah,
who do you got, J-Bone?
Mike Malott.
I think it's a row of us.
Sweep across the board, boys.
This fight, real quick, Kyle, I know you like to make the presentations on this one, but I feel like this fight's getting so swept under the rug just because people aren't super satisfied with what it brings as a title bout. But I feel like both girls, especially Raquel Pennington, watching her career forever.
I'm gonna sweep by that. That was the next fight.
I'm not saying you were. I'm not saying you were going to skip it or anything like that. I'm saying as like the MMA fans and everything have just been basically acting like this isn't even a title bout on the card, and that there aren't even the level of excitement that I've seen for this is basically at a -1. It seems like. But that being said, I feel like what I was getting to was Raquel Pennington's been in this game forever. If she's able to step up and showcase the boxing skills and stuff that she has in some of her fights, I feel like she's very deserving to be in this spot. And then with Buena Silva, she's that new hot Brazilian looking to potentially take over Amanda Nunes' spot as the queen of the division. So I feel like with the without having Juliana Pena being available at this time, this is the best fight that they can currently make in the division. So I just wanted to get that across because I feel like it's been just buried as a fight. Like people wouldn't even want this to be on the main card type of thing, and it is the rightful title bout for the division. Whether or not you like that or not, it is what it is, and I'm excited to see which one of these girls can live out a lifetime dream and having that belt wrapped around them come Saturday.
So then who wins, Corey?
I really want Raquel Pennington. I really want Raquel Pennington to I've been a fan of hers for a long time. Her whole thing that she has with just kind of being the quiet, shy type. Why is her wife's name escaping me right now? Tisha Torres. Their whole little thing is just the happy MMA couple and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys have them on your Insta or Twitter or anything like that, but they're always just posting happy little vacation photos together and training spots and stuff like that. To dig past the like fandom and stuff like that, though, I feel like she's been just steadily, slowly improving her skills, and now she's on such a win streak where she's, what I was saying earlier, in this fight. I feel like she was the rightful B-side against Pena, but like I say, Pena's not available, so we get Buena Silva. That being said, Buena Silva she's on more of a hot streak, I feel like, than Pena is. Pena's just kind of been doing that slow grind of like once or twice a year she'll fight, get a win, and kind of worked her way into this title bout, where Buena Silva's just kind of pushed her way through the door to get this opportunity. So that's what worries me for Pena, is the momentum I feel like is on Silva's side. But as a fan, I want to see Pennington go out there and be able to get this one done come Saturday.
J-Bone, who you got?
You made right there, actually. So Pennington, her past 5 fights has spanned across 4 years. As far as Silva, her past 4 fights has spanned across past 2 years. So the volume's there, right? But like you said, Pennington's been in the game a while. I'd like to see her, get the dub and get the strap, man, fulfill that dream. But something here is just making me lean towards Silva. So I'm gonna take Silva by decision here.
Yeah, if I was laying money, I feel like that's probably the direction I'm going to. It's a bit of a
money, Corey. Win that money, dude.
It's a bit of a heart pick, but I either one, like you say in the beginning, it could be very much flip a coin on this one.
Yeah, man. I would like to see Raquel Pennington win it, obviously, for a lot of the same reasons, like you said. I've been watching Raquel Pennington for a lot longer than I have Buena Silva. But I will say this: Buena Silva is a little killer, dude. And if Raquel Pennington ain't 100% ready to go with this one, it could be a real bad night for whomever it is in that one. So, with that said, though, I kind of also feel like this is kind of like the right time for Raquel Pennington to be able to get a chance at it. I think Buena Silva might be what it is because, let's face it, I mean, realistically, I don't really think there was anybody that was ever really going to be able to dethrone Amanda Nunes, in my opinion. So, with that being said, if nobody was going to be able to dethrone the undisputed champ and the lineal champion, I mean, this is the next best thing, and you can't blame them because that's who was being put in the cage. So, all that being said, I'm going with Raquel Pennington, but there's something about the fact that, like you were saying, Buena Silva is like the young upstart like that, where I could just see her coming in and trying to like raw power Raquel Pennington and blow through too.
And that's one of Pennington's kind of flaws, I feel like, is whenever you put her on the back foot, she really struggles. She's not able to circle out and then implement her boxing game from there. I feel like once you get her backing up, she's not able to do the same type of stuff she's able to do when it's a 50-50 fight or she's the one leading the dance. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see it stay in Brazil. That's what I'll say. But let's go USA on this one. Come on, Raquel.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, but that kind of brings us to our main event. And before we get to who we think's going to win, whichever one of you guys wants to go first, what are your guys' thoughts in what we've seen in the whole build up for Strickland versus Plessis? And do you think it's like bad for the sport or anything like that? But what do you think about the overall build up? Definitely makes you want to see a fight, want to see them fight more. But what do you think about what we've seen so far?
To your point, it definitely makes you want to see a fight more. If the brawl would have been worse, if they would have I feel like they got into it without getting into it. They got into it like two sports players would get into it. They didn't really beat each other up. They didn't start some big crowd brawl or something. It was for 10 seconds and the clip's been viewed 10 million times. So I feel like it might have just been a little bit of fight publicity with some anger on top of it. I'm sure there's emotions. You can see it in Sean Strickland. He definitely seems like somebody who's not the greatest at regulating said emotions. But that being said, I feel like Drickus will do the DDP thing again, just for the wrestling show's sake. But
yeah, boy,
I feel like DDP, man, he's playing right into this, man. He's pulling Sean Strickland's strings. He's making him mad at every opportunity he gets, and then immediately doing an interview about how silly it is that he's taking. That's one thing I can say about Drickus. He's actually made me more of a fan watching how he's kind of played this lead up, I guess you could say. But Sean Strickland, I mean, shit, I got my gun right behind me. I'm fucking Sean Strickland Fight Week, baby. Let's get it. It's America first right in this bitch. So I mean, if there's anybody that represents that type of mentality more, it's Sean Strickland. That's the guy. I mean, literally, I don't know if you've seen the shirt he put out this for his Fight Week this week, but it was a woman in every kitchen, a gun in every hand. Sean Strickland.
Oh my god!
It's like he lives up to that classic
He definitely doesn't shy away from his beliefs, does he?
Yeah, he lives into beliefs fully, and he lives into that I'm sure if you live in Japan or some shit and you think of what an American man is, that you think of Sean Strickland. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's so hard for me to pick against him for that sake. What he was able to do with Izzy, bringing the belt back to the States, and then just kind of go on this whole thing, this whole media tour of kind of not giving a shit and being like I say, America. You know, he's
That's not
definitely
America. That's
representing.
America.
Yeah, that's straight America. You're
Yeah.
right. But his whole tour with Nina Drama and stuff, the fireworks, the Roman candles and stuff, it reminds me of dumb shit we would do when I was kids. You know, it's like it's American shit. And that being said, it doesn't help in a fight, not one bit, to do some American ass shit leading into it. Drickus is a real problem, man. We've seen him in that Rob Whittaker fight dispose of him. Like, and that's a guy that nobody's able to just get rid of. The only person that's ever knocked him out in 185 was Izzy before that, and it was one just super slick shot that got him out of there. Drickus kind of like applied that pressure, really like implemented his game, wasn't allowing Rob to do anything basically, and then found the finish. So I don't know, man. This fight, I like I say, hearts Sean Strickland all the way. I want that belt staying out there in Las Vegas. But I don't know, man. Drickus has really surprised me in his advancement in his skills since we've seen him back in like the Darren Till fight and stuff like that, where he kind of squeaked that one out. And some of the fights even before that, like the Derek Brunson fight and stuff, same thing. He kind of like showed some major flaws and stuff like that. I feel like either this guy studies his own tape religiously or his coach is doing amazing work, one or the other, because he's noticing his own flaws and he's improving them in between fights. So it's skill-wise, I feel like Drickus might be that guy that surprises me and ends up the champ and ends up maybe holding onto that belt for a while because he's able to continue to improve upon his skills. But Sean Strickland is one of those guys where if he's able to get that ball rolling in his direction, he's super hard to deal with. I mean, we've seen it in that Izzy fight. He just was – the pressure was unrelenting, but I feel like both of these guys' pressure is that way. So who's able to get what going on in this fight come Saturday is really – it's such a up in the air thing to me. I don't know who's going to be able to – let their game be more victorious. I feel like one thing we can say is we've seen Duplessis get tired in the past. We've never seen Sean Strickland get tired. If anything, that's probably his biggest X factor is his cardio. So I don't know. I skill wise, I feel like Drickus has yet again been improving more fandom and the ability to surprise people yet again. In Sean Strickland is there again. So I'm going to say Sean Strickland levels up after getting the belt and realizes that there's still areas of his game that he can improve upon after now becoming a champ, that he can maybe hold on to that belt for a couple fights. But I don't know, man. DDP in this one's a tough matchup, so I don't know which direction to really go, but I'm going to say Sean Strickland.
All right, J-Bone, who you got?
I know which direction to go. This is the easiest fight on the card for me, dude.
Oof.
I'm taking DDP by TKO in round one.
Damn.
Round one.
Domination right here. 5 out of – first of all, he's 6-0 in the UFC. 5 finishes, okay? He don't need cardio in this one. He's going to go out there. Strickland's going to get hit with one of those bombs, dude, and it's all over from there. That's what I think. That's my pick. I'm sticking to it. I'm even going to tweet it. I'm going to tweet it the day of just so they can either hate me or praise me. But this is the easiest money on the card for me. I'm taking DDP. Round 1, TKO. New champ. Let's go. And we're just setting it up for Izzy to come back, right? The story's already there.
I think if Duplessis wins this fight, I think that's our main event at 300 if everything goes according to UFC's plan.
Get him out of there early then.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. That's I feel like Duplessis could be the one to take the belt off of Strickland, but I also think that the experience that Strickland's gained through these high caliber fights that he's had, I think could serve him well against Duplessis. And I think the story of this fight really comes down to how much is Duplessis going to be able to use the fact that he pissed Strickland off to his advantage, or is Strickland going to just stick to his game plan? That said,
Do you think we're gonna get one of those new clips again of him just like screaming at him, like, "Come on, America!" Let's go.
yeah, I think it's going to be Strickland. I think Strickland's going to win, but I would not be shocked at all if Duplessis, can ride that momentum train. But I feel like Strickland's just got to make it a nasty fight. Like, he's got to do what he does and just keep hands in Dricus's face like the whole fight. Like, I think that's kind of where that comes down to for me. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at.
To make that fight at 300, Corey. So that's what, April you said, right? For UFC 300? Yeah. He would really have to get in there and get out of there with no damage, with virtually no damage at all for that to happen.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, remains to be seen, I guess.
If Strickland wins, though, damaged or not, I could see him coming in there again, trying to headline that card if he's able. Yeah. So either way, I feel like that's why we haven't seen that big matchup announced yet. But
good point.
To you guys' point, unless you have any more thoughts on this card, the one big matchup we did kind of get announced was the Max Holloway Justin Gaethje fight. Before we round out the show, what's your guys' thoughts on that one?
I think that's a badass. I think it's a badass fight, dude. But I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. As much as I love Max Holloway, the story of this fight to me comes down to whether or not he can handle the damage of Justin Gaethje. If he can, this is going to be one hell of a fight. If he can't, we're going to find that out real quick, because Max Holloway's never really been known as a finisher, whether that be at 145 or obviously at 155. Justin Gaethje, on the other hand, is known for catching bodies. And if he can walk through Max Holloway's punches, he's going to hit way harder than Max Holloway. So my gut thought on it, I think it's got the potential to be a badass fight, but I think this is going to give Max Holloway his last opportunity at another big run. But I think Justin Gaethje is going to win this fight.
Yeah, I think actually I posed the question. So J-Bone?
No, I'm with Kyle, man. I don't think I think Holloway he could stick a move in there, but like one bomb from Gaethje, man, I don't think he makes it through, especially if it's going to be a 5-round fight. Gaethje's too powerful and he's known to finish fights, man. So I would hate to see Max go out like that.
And it's for the BMF title, so it is a
BMF title. So it is going to be a 5-round fight, but like we said, Gaethje's known for finishing, dude. So I'm taking Gaethje.
And that's guys at 55 that aren't making their, new and improved version or whatever you want to call Max Holloway's, step up to 155 again. And we've seen his attempt against the upper echelon last time in Dustin Poirier. And that one was ultimately kind of the same thing, where Dustin Poirier just had such a significant power advantage from being the bigger guy. And I feel like Justin Gaethje is even bigger than Poirier is. So, and we've also seen, like you were saying, with the leg kicks and stuff like that Justin Gaethje brings to these fights, man. I feel like Dustin and Max was a more evenly matched fight because Dustin relies a lot more on his hands, where, again, with Max is the same thing. With Justin Gaethje, it's you got to check a leg kick while also watching out for the overhand right, while also watching out for the nasty body shots that he lands.
Very powerful body shots.
Yeah, he's dangerous all around. I feel like it wouldn't be very BMF style, but if I'm Max Holloway, I'm trying to work some jiu-jitsu into this bitch. But maybe that's just me. But I don't know, man. I love the matchup, and to your point, once I kind of like dig in thoughts-wise, I think it is an uphill climb, especially with the version that we've seen of Justin Gaethje as of late. I mean, he was the guy they were arguing whether or not he was the next title shot at, and here we are now. Max Holloway is stepping into that fight. So I don't know, man. As a huge fan of both of these guys, I still kind of just want Max to win because Max is that dude. But I don't know, man. That's uphill climb for sure. We'll see if he's able to get it done to come UFC
Yeah.
300. But I like the fact that also how I had mentioned with the Arnold Allen fight earlier, that was also Holloway's last fight. So if he had known that this move to 55 was coming for a while, it wasn't like the last one where he had just fought for his title 2-3 months before that, had to make championship weight and stuff like that. He's had 9 months or whatever since that fight to be able to bulk up and maybe make a proper run at 155. So we'll see.
All right. The other thing we got to talk about before we get out of here, I'm not going to go into full depth about it. We had the announcement of PFL versus Bellator. On the early prelims, like I mentioned, Clarissa Shields is going to be stepping back into an MMA cage to fight Kelsey DeSantis. You've got the pro debut of Biagio Ali Walsh, which I'm assuming is related to Nico Ali Walsh. You also have Gabriel Braga versus Aaron Pico, a couple of a contender from each spot. The other thing to note on this card is that they're running this card so early. Again, I've talked about this before. I'm not a big fan of the early cards, but
it's being ran from Saudi, so I don't think they have much choice if they're going to.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's right there.
If they're going to get that Saudi money and try to collect that check to make these type of cards available, you kind of have to play tape.
No, I get that. I forgot about the Saudi thing. I was just looking at
it it's an early afternoon fight. Is that what it is?
Noon. The early card starts at 12. The main card starts at 3.
As much as I feel like they did a very good job for it not being when they had first announced champions versus champions. I'm thinking, okay, we got 8 championship fights or whatever, however many fighters are in the PFL. We have, every single. I like how they were there's 4 champion versus champion fights, maybe 5. Yeah. I like that they were they didn't push it all on us at once. I feel like that leaves room for big fights in the next coming months for what they plan on doing with this PFL Bellator debacle, I guess we'll call it at the moment. But with this card, I really like it. The fight that stands out to me the most is AJ McKee versus Collard. I feel like that's an amazing fight. I really like that one. Both guys proven entertainment type of guys.
The one that stunted the debut of Anthony Pettis, for those that don't.
Yeah. And honestly has looked really good since. Fought for their belt again this year. What unfortunately was unsuccessful, but Clay Collard's done an amazing job. So both of these guys, I like that matchup. The championship bouts that they brought on, yet again another fun one. Thiago Santos, Yoel Romero. I feel like they did a really good job of adding picky and choosy type of, we know these guys are the stars type of deal from each organization, so we'll make sure to put them against each other. And I feel like it's a really fun fight. I wish it wasn't pay-per-view.
Thiago Santos versus Yoel Romero, I feel like is going to be a good fight. Nemkov versus Capoleza probably will be a better fight than expected.
I really like that Johnny Eblin versus Impa Kasaganai fight. That's one.
Stay tuned. We might talk to Impa Kasaganai real soon. But with that said,
pronounce that one for me. That welterweight title fight. Magomed what?
Magomedov. Magomed.
No, it's not. It's Magomedov.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So just how
yeah.
Staying corrected, not hard at all.
But that's a crazy fight because Jason Jackson's the one that took the belt off the champ in the last
his
belt.
His name's escaping me as well. The Ukrainian, he was undefeated.
Amosov.
Yeah. And I feel like Bellator is going to have a really good shot in a lot of these fights. That Impa Kasaganai, Johnny Eblin fight, that one's like the cream of the crop for me, I feel like. But honestly, all of these fights, they have a lot of potential for either guy to get the victory. And I like what they're doing with this card. Like I was starting to state earlier, I just wish it wasn't pay-per-view, or at least that it was a significantly reduced, like a $25 pay-per-view or something like that, where somebody like me who's not necessarily going to be out with the boys at, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on a, make it worth my individual purchase for me to sit down at home and watch. But other than that, man, I feel like it's a super solid card. Either way, I'm going to try my best to tune in. Hopefully it don't cost me too much money, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll be watching it.
I enjoyed. I think it's a good card, man. I think it's going to be fun fights. I think that's going to be the real test on this thing for the PFL versus Bellator thing, because I know they plan to keep the tournament format as well. I don't really know how they're going to manage to do that with both brands. I've heard that they were going to keep Bellator and PFL separate, and that maybe they would have cards like this towards the beginning of the year or whatever it might be. As far as the card, I think it's going to be a real good card. I think there's still a lot of big fights though that everybody wants to see, like what we've talked about with Kayla Harrison and Cyborg. There's also Ngannou's impending debut. You also have other champions that got to fight as well. I think all in all, it's a good card, but honestly, I don't know. With me being MMA diehard, I think it's going to be dope to watch, but do I think that it's got enough hype on it that I think it's going to sell a bunch of pay-per-views? I don't know.
Are these unification bouts?
I'm not sure. That's an interesting question. Are they going to have some PFL
point, because it doesn't say anything about it being champion.
It doesn't say. It says champion versus champion
versus champion bout.
And I also seen Sean O'Connell come out and say that he's not for sure on this, so he's kind of just speaking his thoughts. But he said he would imagine that all of those fights are not going to be 5-round fights. So the champ versus champ fight. So maybe there's not even a belt technically on the line from either one. It's just
I don't think that there might be. I think if anything, it might be just like the dream fight scenario in that. They want to see, who's the best out of them. But if they're going to truly keep PFL and Bellator separate, if Bellator comes in and beats all the PFL guys, or PFL beats all of Bellator, or you even have a mix, you could really deplete one or the other of them. So I think that it's more likely that it's just going to be like the showcase fights. But man, we've been flapping our gums for a hot minute. We talked about PFL. We talked about UFC. We talked about Bellator and PFL. We talked about TNA Hard to Kill. What'd you say?
And Lights Out Championship.
And Lights Out Championship 14, man. We've been talked about a lot, man, but we've still got one more episode to come at you for the rest of this week. This Thursday, we're going to be joined by Joe Galley of the NWA to talk about the NWA paranoia tapings that went down in Florida. Shout out to our guy, Bulletproof Troop. Lots to talk about there, as well as past guests of the show, Kerry Morton, Alex Taylor of the Southern Six. Yeah, man, lots to talk about. And then next week, it's already time for the Royal Rumble. Ring the bell. I'm going to be hopefully in the press conference as well. We are credentialed thanks to WWE again. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. You never know what it is that I'm going to get into come time for the Royal Rumble. So make sure you stay tuned, hit that button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check us out this Thursday, 9 p.m. Peace.
Corey's going to have one.